Hey, this is West of Everest. I'm Lee Benson. He is Grant Benson, joining you one day after Oklahoma beats LSU 17-13 to improve to 10-2, 6-2 in the SEC, and for all intents and purposes, not official yet, but Oklahoma should be in the college football playoff whenever the final playoff pairings are announced in a couple of weeks. So exciting time to be an Oklahoma football fan. And it was a game in which Grant and I were both at. Thankfully, we had tremendous seats. A big thank you to our mother and a big thank you to the nice man who she works for and got us some awesome seats. So I'll be sending out an email to that gentleman here at some point today. So we got a great kind of almost front row seat to Oklahoma's win last night. And before we get going, I'll say hello to Grant. He wanted me to say that it looks a little different because he is still in Oklahoma. It's easier for us to record this in separate locations. And he was planning on driving home today, but apparently there's lots of weather going on. He can explain it. So if his setup looks a little different or it looks like it's shaking and there's an earthquake going on, just don't mind it for all of you that watch on video. So with that, Grant, hello.
Hello. Yeah, we're just kind of making do with what we have today, which is what we need to do. But on one end, it's nice. We're actually able to record on a Sunday at our typical time. Otherwise, we would have had to do this on Sunday night, like at 8 or 9 o'clock at night once I got done driving the entire day. But we'll have to thank blizzard conditions in the state of Iowa today for delaying me one day. So just kind of doing what we got to do today. I'm still wearing the same clothes I did last night at the game. Just kind of is what it is at this point in time.
Okay. By the way, we'll acknowledge that if you follow us on the West of Everest Facebook page or follow me on Twitter at Lee Benson Tweets, you may have seen a post yesterday that we would be on the franchise 1077 franchise post-game show. And it turned out Grant was the one that was on the show, which was fine. They ended up booking an extra guy. So we thought we had a couple of spots. So you may have heard Grant and all of his thoughts after the game, along with Brady Trantham and Todd Lisenby on the post-game show. If so, hopefully you did, and thanks for listening. I was there as well, but it worked out because I'll be honest, Grant, as we get into talking about the game, we'll do likes and dislikes and everything like that. When the game ended, I didn't really have a thought. I didn't have any good, interesting takes. And so I really wanted to go back and rewatch the game. Also, I had a bit of a headache as well. It didn't feel great. So I'm happy that you were able to jump in along with Brady and Todd to do that post-game show. But I am certainly a lot more prepared here on Sunday morning after rewatching the game and have a lot more things to say about it. So here's where I'll start. Do you have any sort of opinions that you had on the radio last night that maybe you've changed after rewatching the game?
Not really. I think the number one takeaway from the game is that the regular season is over, and I think OU has accomplished their number one goal for the season, which was to make the playoff. So they did it. Another 10-win season for OU. They traversed what ended up being, I don't think, it didn't end up being as tough of a schedule as the season progressed as it looked like on paper at the beginning of the season. But it was still a very difficult schedule. I think there's some people out there saying that it was like the toughest schedule in OU football history. I think that's nonsense. That's crazy. That's definitely not the case. But it was probably the toughest schedule they've played since last season, which was a tougher schedule than it was this year. Or a tougher SEC schedule it was last year for sure. But it's still a major accomplishment. I think they played a lot of teams this season that have a lot of blue chip players, future NFL players, but also teams where they didn't fully come together. And so I think they caught some teams at the right time, especially in November. And then they rode their defense to what was a very, very successful regular season. And hey, it was fun being there. I thought over the course of the game, I kind of, I sort of had an antsy feeling the entire time, but I never really felt like they were going to lose the game. I kind of always felt like they were going to pull it out in the end. And it was mostly because I thought my big takeaway from the game, and it's like I've gone through and I've kind of looked at like a lot of like the analytics have been updated, like SP Plus and FPI, and OU has kind of taken a hit on all of those. But I I thought we saw last night. I thought we saw their best offensive performance in SEC play this year. And I know they only scored 17 points, but for the first time since September, we actually saw them start to hit some chunk plays in the passing game. And that came against arguably the best secondary in the SEC. And I think going forward, whether or not they're going to be hosting a playoff game, or they're going to have to go on the road, I like the last look that we got to see before the playoffs. I'm glad that we saw John Mateer try to start to find that rhythm down the field again. Even though he did, he threw 3 picks and 2 of them were pretty bad picks. And I don't think you excuse those, but all of the other good that happened in the game, I think I'm feeling pretty good about it for the most part, especially considering that they only had 6 healthy offensive linemen in this game. They kind of had to play musical chairs. So they got through the regular season. They got 3 weeks now to hopefully heal up. Maybe you'll get an R. Mason Thomas back. Hopefully you'll get a Jake Michael back, which it sounds like he was just sick. It wasn't necessarily an injury. So you would think you'll get him back, and they're going to be taking what is a genuine, legit, nasty defense into the playoff for the first time this OU team has in the playoff era.
Let's see. Where to begin? So, yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the offense. So, close to 400 yards of total offense. LSU's defense has been really good against the pass, and Oklahoma did hit a lot of big plays, and like you mentioned, only scored 17 points. Could have been more points if not for the turnovers. And I think after the game on the radio, and I don't know if you still have this opinion. I know we had to give you had to give out the player of the game, and you kind of zigged and with John Mateer, because the easy one was Satania, and I don't think. And so after rewatching the game, I wouldn't say Mateer is a player of the game. I wouldn't say he was probably as bad as probably most people just watching it through thought he was. I thought he was bad in a lot of times, and I thought he was good in sometimes too. And so if you want to look at the things glass half full, I'm with you. He threw for over 300 yards. He threw the ball down the field more and connected on some throws more than we've seen since probably, September? And you may have mentioned that. And so maybe that's a good sign moving forward against a good defense. And I think it is worth pointing out that the elements were not easy to throw in. We were there. I mean, the wind was blowing a little bit. Now, it's it's actually not great that the 3 picks that Mateer had actually were when he was throwing with the wind. So those are the 3. One of the 2, obviously the first one was tipped, and good play by LSU, just kind of bad luck there. And I noticed as he was going against the wind, now that was the Isaiah Satania long touchdown. Thankfully, he was wide open, and there was not really any sort of, Mateer didn't have to be precise with that throw, just had to get it out there, and Satania had to be underneath it. Going that way on your TV screen, right to left, it seemed like his accuracy was worse, especially in the second quarter. Got a little bit better as the game went on. So I kind of felt like he was fighting the wind a bit in the second quarter, particularly. He was missing some throws. But overall, I was encouraged to see him hit on so many deep throws, deep shots. And as far as the offense goes, explosive plays, Oklahoma has not been very explosive. I went back, and as you were talking, I counted up because I forgot to do that before we started recording. Oklahoma hit on 6 explosive plays in that game. That's got to be the most explosive plays they've had. I mean, maybe, I guess, go back and they might have had that many against Tennessee. Maybe.
Definitely not.
I'd have to go back
Definitely
and look.
not. They weren't particularly explosive against Tennessee, I didn't think. I mean, I'm thinking of.
No, they had some ones that probably surprise you.
I would guess.
Still, it's positive.
I'd call my shot and say they only had 2 explosives against Tennessee.
You think they only had 2?
Yeah, the Satania one down the sideline in the third quarter, and then the Xavier Robinson run in the fourth when they were trying to ice the game.
It depends on if that John Mateer scramble for a first down was a
it's fair.
Explosive play.
Could have been one.
Which the way I know some people count explosive plays. So some people count a run play if it's, I think, either 10 or more or 15 or more is an explosive play. I just go all the way around, man. To me, 20 plus yards. Run, pass, that's an explosive play. And so I can't recall if Mateer ran for 20 on that scramble. If I have time, I'll go back and look at it. But ultimately, who cares? Hey, let's go. Let's start with likes and dislikes. and I have a huge list. I mean, I have so many dislikes on the offense though, and not as many likes. And the defense was really good again. And we're so used to the defense playing so well. My likes on the defense is good, but it's not as big as maybe you would think for how good they played. So I'll start with my first like. We'll go with like on offense, and this is one of the explosive plays in the first quarter. 3rd down and 11, a conversion to Giovanni Gibson for 27 yards. And I thought Mateer stood in the pocket nicely, delivered a nice ball through zone coverage. And thankfully, Mansour Delane was not near that on the front side to get in the way. I think he was preoccupied with Jaron Kanik, who was running a fade on the other side of the play. And so I like that. That was a big 3rd and 11 conversion, 27 yards, and that was one of the 6 explosive plays in the game. And there were so many things that happened. I don't know if people even remember that all the way back in the first quarter.
Yeah, I don't think they got that was a field goal drive, right? On that, or is that the one where they get stopped on 4th and 1 on that? I can't remember. It was so weird. But yeah, I thought that was that's a play that just hasn't really been made in SEC play consistently at all. And so, and we had a great in the stadium. We had a great shot of that. I mean, that happened right in front of us. But of course, we're kind of so close that you don't necessarily see everything develop there. And so that was nice to see. It was it's a throw that he kind of layered over the top. Like he was open, but there were about 3 or 4 LSU guys sort of that he had to layer it over top of that he was able to do. And that was I thought it was a good throw. And I'll kind of piggyback off of that with. This is not necessarily my first like, but it's topical, so I'll do it. How about Giovanni Gibson? Definitely.
By the way, real quick, yes, that was the Tate Sandale field goal drive.
Okay,
just wanted to.
Let's say how about Giovanni Gibson having his best game as a Sooner up to this point? He had a drop, I think, in the 4th quarter. You go back and watch it though. The ref is literally right in front of him, and a split second before the ball hits him in the hands, the ref just ducks out of the way, like, oh crap, oh no. And so I'm willing to just say that was on the ref just being in the way. It is what it is. So Giovanni Gibson, his best game as a Sooner. He had 2 explosives, and they were both kind of over the middle of the field there. And honestly, I'm gonna go because this is in the forefront of my mind right now, and I just want to hit on it right now. He should have had a 3rd explosive in the 3rd quarter. This is happened when the play got blown dead because they granted LSU a timeout. This was on 3rd and 15, and this was a couple of plays after they missed an obvious PI on Harold Perkins on Deion Burks, and they granted LSU a timeout. And Lee, I went to the rule book, and LSU got away with one there. They should not have been granted that timeout. That should have been a live play. I went and looked. In college football, only players on the field or the head coach can call a timeout. I went back and watched it over and over again. Blake Baker, the defensive coordinator, was the one calling a timeout. It should not have been granted. That should have been a live play, and it prevented an explosive for Oklahoma. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That was a sequence of incompetence for the officials.
Now, great call on that. I did see because I was going to say I thought it was fine because the defensive coordinator, the guy in the yellow hoodie, did call that timeout. Now I went to the rule book and I was trying to find timeout. Now I want to ask you where you found that because I could not find any specific rules in the rule book that mentioned who could call timeouts or whatnot.
It was from a website that was basically like a full like copy and paste of the NCAA rule book. So like the rule is like a player on the field. It's like a player that is on the field can call a timeout as well as players going in and out of the game as long as they're like they said in the rule book between the nines is what it is. So there's like for players coming on and off the field, there is some sort of rule. It's like if you're in a certain spot, you can call one or you can't call one. It's that or the head coach. No other coach can call a timeout in college football. It has to be the head coach.
Yeah, I take your word for it, but I tried to find that in the rule book and I couldn't find it. So
what I will say is like that's a silly rule. Anybody should be able to call a timeout. That's a silly rule. But also it was just and it coming right after them totally botching the obvious Harold Perkins DPI was frustrating because that was the Mateer AJ Halsey pick drive where they still converted the 3rd and 15 to Satania, down the sideline. Great catch, and great catch by Satania. And then they go super, super fast, and then Mateer, probably acting a little too big for his britches, tries to fit just an exceptionally tight window throw into Jaren Kanak, while the best safety in the SEC is covering him. Not a good decision.
Okay, yeah, so you've covered a lot of stuff that were on my list. So yeah, I mean, obviously, the dislike was the refs missing that PI that should have been on Perkins. That was, and you watch the replay, and the field judge was down the line and was looking right at it. I mean, it happened right in front of us where we were sitting. It was pretty obvious. That was a pretty bad miss. And then
even Matt Austin gets on. He's an idiot. He gets on and he even says it's an obvious PI.
So let's be clear. Matt Austin is an idiot because he's not very good at explaining why he's correct about the rules, which I feel like he's like half good because he knows the rules, but his explanation of it, which is really his main job, he's not very good at that. So we've seen it all season long because obviously OU's always on ESPN.
And then also
great big top catch. Real quick, clean it up. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say the roughing the passer on PJ Adebawore was brutal, awful, heinous, terrible call. That Matt Austin said was the correct call. He's just wrong. That's just wrong, and you're wrong about it too. That's just so wrong.
I'm not wrong. It's in the rule book. It's told you. Like, here's the thing, guys. Like, you will enjoy watching football a lot more. You don't have to follow my advice, but you will enjoy watching it a lot more whenever you realize that there are rules and that when penalties are called, and if it's in the rule book, then it's a good or a bad call. And that's in the rule book. And I'll tell you where it is. It's roughing the passer, Article 9, Section 4. This is what happened. Forcibly driving the passer to the ground and landing on the passer with action that punishes the player. That's what that falls under. You can't do that. You may not like it, but it's in the rule book.
Absolute just ticky-tack horse bleep call. Ticky-tack garbage. You might as well just say you cannot tackle the quarterback if he does not have the ball in his hands. Might as well just say that.
Okay, no, that's a very low common denominator way to look at it because
it's not. You think you're just being smart about this. You're not. It's a stupid call. It was a bad call.
No, it's not a bad call. It's in the rule book. And did you watch the Auburn-Alabama game? The roughing the passer call on Auburn late in the game. That's also in the rule book. You can't go low on the quarterback. So Auburn fans can't get mad about that because that was the right call.
Yes, I know that you can't. The rules. That's obvious. You can't go low on the quarterback. But there are plenty of instances where you can tackle the quarterback while he's in the motion of throwing the ball. Like, that's such a quick play. It's so fast. It's ridiculous. It's a bad call. Like, I don't. Whatever.
Just because you don't like the rule doesn't mean that it's not a rule.
That's not what this is. That's not what this is. If PJ Adebawore would have hit him low, that's fine. You can never hit a quarterback low. That's always a penalty. That's not whatever. Like, the whole driving a player into it, that's so subjective and so stupid. That's not what happened there.
That's what happened. He fell on him. He drove him to the ground with his full body contact. It's been called in the NFL for the last 2 or 3 years. Everybody gets mad about it. But now you're seeing defensive players realize that they can't do that, and they'll.
Do not bring up the NFL. You can't hit a quarterback in the NFL. It's not legal to hit quarterbacks in the NFL.
Okay, you can in college. Yes, you can. Yes, you can hit a quarterback in the NFL. And that was another example of Matt Austin not explaining the rule correctly because he was right about it. But he referenced the NFL and he was correct, but he should have said, hey, here's what happened. This is why it's in the rule book. Forcibly driving. Now, if PJ would have, when he hit him,
how do you look at that and say that he's forcibly driving him? How can you say that he's forcibly driving him? What does he specifically do on that play? Because he landed on him
straight. He's supposed to hit him and then slide off of him. You've seen NFL guys start to do that because they know that they can't get away with driving the guy to the ground. It's not easy, but that's part of the rule, man. And like, I'm sorry, it doesn't bother me because it's in the rule book. It's just a bad luck thing. So to me, it's not worth getting mad about because it's in the rules. Now, when there's a blatant missed PI and Harold Perkins hits Deion Burks before the ball gets there, that's a bad no call. They missed that. You can't do that. So that's why it doesn't bother me that much. And I feel like a lot of people, and it's not just OU, it's everybody that watches sports. I'm a very unbiased person. I don't think the refs are trying out to get anybody. I am. When it comes to sports, the refs are just out there like they don't care who wins the game. They're just calling what they see. Just doing their job. So it bothers me. And also, Oklahoma is very heavily penalized. They're also winning a lot of games. There's also a lot of other good teams in college football that get penalized a lot too and probably win a lot of games.
Well, that hit, that thing that they flagged on Adeborough is not called a majority of the time. Just isn't.
Okay, but that's not an argument. That's not an argument. And also, you can't prove that. Go back and find a bunch of plays. I bet it has been called a bunch. You're just saying that. And just because it hasn't, and even if you're correct, that doesn't mean that it's not in the rule book. Like, that's not an argument.
I mean, it's a subjective. It's a subjective rule. It's a subjective rule. It's a subjective rule that is improperly applied all the time, and you know that too. That's like he just tackled
him. I do not know that. No, you can't. That's even the defensive guy who was calling the game as a color commentator was like, I actually agree with you. Like, I usually defend defensive players. Because it's in the rule. You know this. They should be taught this. They should be coached this stuff. Like, no, I don't know that because it's not a thing. Things have changed.
Yeah, can't hit the quarterback.
Otherwise, Oklahoma played really good defense.
Can't hit the quarterback if he does not have the ball in his hand. That is the rule. And that's how they should be taught. That is how they should be taught. If the quarterback is in the motion of throwing, you cannot hit him. Period.
If PJ would have, after he hit him, would have slid off and not landed all of his weight on him, they wouldn't have thrown the flag. That's the reason they threw the flag. So, okay. Likes and dislikes. How about this? Here's a situation where the refs also made a bad call, and it was confusing. How about in the first quarter when there was a face mask penalty called against Cortland Guillory? Now, it was originally flagged as a face mask. The referee did not say who it was on, and so I was watching back. The ref or the official that threw the flag, he was looking at Kendall Daniels, and he was engaged with a blocker. And maybe Kendall Daniels' arm was up near the guy's helmet. So I was like, okay, I guess maybe Kendall Daniels was grabbing the guy's helmet. That's what the official called, through the flag. But then they said, they came back on before the next snap, was like, oh, the penalty was on number 4, on Cortland Guillory. You watch Cortland Guillory, he's engaged with Barry and Brown, and they're both grabbing each other's face masks. It's a classic, like, one guy grabbed it, the other guy grabbed it, they're fighting, they go out of bounds into the bench. There's a whole, like, bench thing. But then they called it only on Cortland Guillory. That was a bad call. Like, they were both in either it should have just been on Kendall Daniels, which you couldn't really tell. It's like, okay, I would have accepted that because the ref was looking right at Kendall Daniels and it kind of looked like he had his face up in the guy's face mask. But the fact that they just called it on Cortland Guillory when both guys were grabbing each other's face masks, that was a bad sequence for the referees there. I didn't really understand that one.
And it led to LSU scoring as well. That's when they got their first field goal, right? Because the very next play was the double pass to Bauer Sharp.
Yeah, I believe there was another penalty that series. Oh yeah, that was the same series. Yeah, with the PJ Adeborough, roughing the passer penalty. So
I'm gonna go. LSU's offense is terrible. They're really bad. I don't know what happened. I know LSU had a disappointing season last year. They only went 8-4, I think, but their offense was genuinely really good last year. And I know they graduated a lot of like their skill position production and their entire offensive line, but didn't they bring back the same dudes and like they don't do anything well, like at all. And so I just want to throw that out there. That LSU offense really, really sucks. Like, big time. The one thing that they did well, I thought, was the 30-yarder to Trades Green in the fourth quarter was by far their best moment, where it was like, okay, Davon Jordan is out there for like only like his third or fourth snap of the entire game, and then they kind of start in a tight formation and they shift everybody out, and then it's 5'10" Davon Jordan against a guy who is 9 to 10 inches taller than him. And it's just kind of just like a jump up and get it. Good coverage by, that's all, Davon Jordan couldn't do anything more than he did. But like that was the one sequence where it's like, and my assumption is that they just ran into that by accident. That's such a dysfunctional and bad offense. They had no idea that it was Davon Jordan out there. That was just a play that they were going to call. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Like I thought, and OU's defense did what they were supposed to do. LSU only had 3.5 yards per play. They couldn't move the ball outside of some just kind of some weird trickery and whatnot. But I just want to throw that out there just because, and I'm glad they won. But like I really hate LSU. They deserve to, and I know Lane Kiffin, it looks like, is about to be their new head coach. I hope it crashes and burns. They deserve many decades of being one of the worst programs in the SEC, just for all of the luck that they have sustained this century. And I don't know where I was going with this, but they're bad, and LSU is bad, and everyone associated with LSU should feel bad. Thank you. I'll take your comments off the air.
Thank you. Well, I just did the math. Against Tennessee, OU had 4 explosives in that game, so not quite 6. We obviously forgot to mention the very obvious one. Xavier Robinson had the big one at the end of the game where he chose not to score a touchdown.
I did reference that one quite specifically.
Oh, okay. Well, the Satania one, and then the Mateer run was for 21, and then there was another explosive play in the first half. So they had 4. And I was getting ready to count up the Ole Miss ones, but because I feel like OU had some big plays in that game too. So let's kind of go rapid fire. Likes for the offense. How about this? Torrey Blaylock in the second quarter started a drive with a 21-yard run. I thought that was the most effective he had looked since South Carolina, and the stats bear that out. He also had a 13-yard run to start the third quarter. Now, here's the problem, though, is that outside of those 2 runs, I believe he had 9 carries for 8 yards. So he was 3.8 yards per carry the entire game. And also, I think he might have gotten banged up and injured again, but he kept playing. So he got rocked on a play in the third quarter, I want to say, and then came out. And I think either his shoulder or his clavicle or something's all messed up still with him.
And also, I guess I haven't seen the snap counts, but just from being there and then rewatching the game, he definitely outsnapped Xavier Robinson in this game. And so if you want to question the health of the running backs, let's just say there is a reason that Jade Knott was on the field in the second half when Oklahoma was losing the game, because they didn't have anybody else to throw out there.
Yeah. What is your next like or dislike?
I don't know. I didn't make a list. I'm going off of you. I do this all by memory, baby.
All right. How about some? Let's. I mean, the offense is a huge story. How about some dislikes for the offense? So obviously, Mateer's first interception. Like, just real quick, his first interception. Again, he got tipped. Whatever. Now, the problem with that, though, on that play is the concept. Mateer, he is going on the slant to Giovanni Gibson, and it was fine because there was one safety, and the safety was going away from it. So if the ball gets through there, it gets through, and there's a chance for Gibson to make the play. But the coverage was still terrific, and it may have been a PBU anyways. Now, my issue with that is the concept, and this is like where the football coaches out there, if you listen to the show, is can this be a thing? And we've talked about this probably a million times on the show, and I much would have rather had that. Given the defense that LSU was showing, they're showing single high man across the board, press man, and Jaren Kanak was out in the slot along with Giovanni Gibson. I would have much rather see Giovanni Gibson just run a go, and then Jaren Kanak run a little 5-6 yard out route against Harold Perkins, the linebacker. A much easier throw for John Mateer, and it's difficult to cover for Harold Perkins. That should have been an easy first down against man coverage. But yet they're running these double slant. Actually, Kanak ran just a little short range crosser, little drag across, while Giovanni Gibson was running that slant, which is a long throw for Mateer. How about, and that's just a general dislike that I didn't even write down. I feel like LSU was giving a lot of cushion. I saw a lot on the rewatch. And Oklahoma just is not taking, I mean, a couple of times they were taking free yards, but they could have taken a lot more. And I don't know if the wind and the bad elements factored into that. But, yeah, that interception, not great, because I didn't like, I feel like a better route concept would have been much easier success on that third down and mid-range. And then the next one I'll go with, and I'll let you talk. So also in the first quarter, there was a 3rd and 11 situation where Oklahoma had 11 personnel, and here was the personnel. Xavier Robinson was out there fine, but the tight end was Caden Helms, and the receivers were Jacob Jordan, Jermichael Carter, and Ivan Carrion on 3rd and 11. And that was a play, and you and I mentioned it in the crowd. We were watching, it's 3rd and long. Why are these guys on the field? And miraculously, Mateer scrambled and got 10 yards and almost got the first down. And then that was the sequence where Oklahoma decided to go for it on 4th and 1 and went to 13 personnel, put all the tight ends out there, and couldn't get any push and turned the ball over on downs.
Okay, I want to piggyback
big time
off that.
dislike that entire sequence.
There's a big dislike, and so I'm going to kind of couple this with another thing too. A dislike in the first half is I think you saw some game management issues that have popped up a lot throughout the Venables regime so far, and I would say not as much in November, but they popped up and I think that 4th and 1 is a good example. So I think, and OU's up 3-0 at that time, and I think going forward on 4th and 1 near midfield is always going to be defensible. I think if anybody says, right, like, hey, LSU's offense is terrible, you have one of the best punters in the country at pinning teams inside their 15 or 10-yard line or whatever, why don't you just kind of play conservatively here? And LSU is not going to go the length of the field on you. That's just not going to happen in this game. And why don't you just go ahead and just punt, maybe get them down like at the 10-yard line, and then just sort of let your defense eat from there, and you can kind of start back over with good field position with your offense. If you want to say, well, hey, 4th and 1 going for it is always, and like I'd agree with you, but I hate the play call there. One, you're right, they go into 13 personnel. What has been one of the themes, one of the criticisms we've had of this offense all season long, their tight ends suck at blocking. They just can't do it. And so you're going to bring all of your tight ends on the field and you're going to try to block up a run game where it's like LSU is just like, hey, you got 13 personnel out here. What? The only tight end that we're really scared of is Jaren Kanak. And so it's like, hey, if you run some sort of elaborate play action fake here to get someone open, like leak someone out, then I guess, all power to you. But LSU is just like, you're going to run the ball here. And so they sold out and they stuffed the run. And I hate the play call. One, because you're putting all your tight ends out there. You're asking them to do something that they're not good at. And two, you have a makeshift offensive line in this game. Your center is out. You have Fabechi Wiwu playing center, presumably for the first time at the college level. You have Foje playing right guard for the first time since like September. So your offensive line is already totally out of whack, and you're going to ask them and your tight ends who are bad at blocking, you're going to ask them to bow up and man-to-man on one of the best defenses in college football to get a yard in that situation. It's a bad call. And you actually hand it off to the running back. You don't even let Mateer keep it, who is your best short yardage running back. Or I mean, Xavier Robinson is when he's healthy, but he wasn't healthy. And so you're not even going to let John Mateer do that and at least get an extra numbers advantage there. So I think that's a situation where if that was your play call, if that was always going to be your play call on 4th and 1 there, just go ahead and punt that thing away because it directly led to LSU tying the game. And so I have a problem with that. I think that was a game management issue. And then I want to, and keeping with the same theme, I want to fast forward to their last drive of the first half in the second quarter, which I thought at times resembled that final drive against Texas in the Cotton Bowl at the end of the first half, where they get the ball with like over 4 minutes to go. I'm pretty sure they had their full allotment of timeouts. They had all the time in the world. And they end up going only 8 plays, 34 yards in 3 minutes and 42 seconds. And there's just everything is just kind of off about the drive. There were times where they should have taken their timeouts and just like, hey, get into a good play. You can't take them with you. Like I was joking in the stands. I was saying, that's a good time. It's a good thing that you can carry over timeouts to the second half. That's a good thing. It's sweet. They're going to have 6 timeouts in the second half. But no, it doesn't work that way. And so there was never any sort of urgency there of trying to score when they had plenty of time. In that situation, you're thinking, let's go score a touchdown. We have so much time. And if we need to, we can burn a timeout. That's what they're for at the end of the first half. Take your time, get into a good play. And of course, it was one of those things where they, I'm trying to think, I could have sworn there was a penalty there, but it doesn't look like there was at all. But that's right. They get into 3rd and 1, and this was right after the 2-minute warning. And, they try to run some sort of like Mateer little keeper, and LSU reacted like that's exactly what they expected OU to do, and they stuffed it. I'm pretty sure there was a holding penalty that was declined on that as well. And then just like all of us, And all of a sudden you're kind of, okay, no points this drive. And it just kind of seemed like, again, that they just botched that entire situation. And that was really disappointing, especially like points are coming at a premium here. Like you got to score when it can, and they're on LSU side of the 50, and they just weren't able to get it done there. And I also want to say this is more tongue in cheek, but on the very, very first play of that drive, Mateer completed a pass to Deion Burks for 8 yards, and he gets up and he's well short of the first down marker. He gets up and he signals for a first down. And I didn't see that in the stadium. I saw that on the rewatch, and I'm just like, oh, no wonder they screwed up this drive. You got Deion Burks just given the ultimate jinx of just not knowing where he is on the field. He gets up and he does if you're looking on video, he does the point thing, and he's like 2.5 yards short of the first down. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, I was going to mention that at the end there. That was how the drive started, so it was almost doomed to fail. By the way, I thought there was no jinxes, Grant. It's more of a to me, it's just kind of a nice little window into Deion Burks' awareness level. Clearly not great. That holy cow, that I could not believe it when I saw him do that. And yeah, that drive ended with the Kanik was called for holding, didn't matter because Mateer lost yardage, and another reason why that was so problematic, I thought, is they didn't have a whole lot of urgency. It's almost like at some point they were just playing for a field goal, but they were going into the wind. And I know they have the best kicker in college football this season, but also you're going into the wind. So you need to get relatively close, man. Like I know Tate Sandell has had a great season, but I mean, the wind's blowing in your face. Like, I mean, he from 50 plus, it's not going to be automatic whenever the wind was blowing the way it was. So it was very strange. I agree with you. And that second quarter, another dislike with John Mateer. That's where his accuracy was really poor. And I think I'm going to guess the wind had a lot to do with it, but that was the where he hit Giovanni Gibson on a crosser where Gibson had to kind of go down low to make the catch, and he fell to the ground. And if it would have been a little bit higher up, he could have caught it in stride. Now, I know in the broadcast they said he could have been running for a touchdown. I mean, LSU had 2 DBs that were like 7 yards back that would have definitely, one of them would have made the tackle. So, but it still would have been probably a 15-yard gain for Giovanni Gibson. The problem was, instead, it was 2nd and 1. They didn't get the first down. The next play is an RPO screen pass to Isaiah Satania where he loses a yard. Deion Burks is not the guy blocking on the edge. He gets beat all the time. He cannot hold a block on the edge, and he couldn't hold a block there. Satania's brought down for a loss of a yard. And then it was 3rd down, and they go to 12 personnel. And it was this play when they go to 12 personnel, and it's a good play design. The 2 tight ends, though, in the game, Jaren Kanik's not in the game. It's Carson Kent and Caden Helms. And this was the play where they did the play action and rolled Helms out into the flat, and he was wide open, and Mateer threw it behind him. And it was an awkward throw, and Helms had to turn his body, and he couldn't catch it. And if on that one, a good throw and turn up the field, Helms did have a lot of room to run because the only thing out there was a corner, and there was a receiver to block the corner. So Helms could have ran for at least 25 to 30 yards, if not way more, if the block is picked up. And that was just another example, like on that, just some poor accuracy there by John Mateer.
And that play call too. That's one of my favorite plays in all of football. The tight end coming across the formation, acting like they're going to be blocking like a split zone type thing, and then they leak out and it's a play action. Like that thing is open for at least 5 yards, like every single time, it seems like, when you run it. And OU, it's like, I was just last year when their offense was terrible, I was just begging for them to run that play every now. It's just like, get in good situations and run it. And then, of course, I think that was on Mateer. I think Helms would have. He had so much space. Like on the broadcast, they're like, I mean, that's a huge explosive. I don't think so. I think Helms probably only gets about 10 or 15 yards on that if he goes, because Helms does not run well. And so I think, he's probably chased down at some point in time. Jaren Kanik might score on that if it's Jaren Kanik. So I go back to it. And there was also another play. It says you bring up, they ran a lot more of these tried these bubble screens where they're asking Deion Burks to hold up, and then it's just not working. But I believe this was in the first quarter, but they tried to run a little, they sent Jaren Kanik in motion to a side where I think there were trips on that side. They sent Kanik in motion, And the play was they're going to throw a little screen to Jaron Kanik with 3 blockers in front of him, and the play ended up being blown dead because I think Satania false started. So it was like, and so I was like, that's a play. I want them to go back to that in the first game of the playoffs at least, because that's who on those little screens, that's who you want to throw it to. It should be Kanik. It shouldn't be Satania. It shouldn't Burks. Fine, maybe he scored on one of them, even though we'll get to that. But I just stuff behind the line of scrimmage, it needs to go to Jaron Kanik because he's hard to tackle.
Yeah, it still continues to be a problem. Get the ball to your playmakers, and that was my last note on that. I forgot to mention, so I'm happy you hit on it. That needs to be Jaron Kanik. Jaron Kanik may have made a weird catch on that and at least picked up some yardage. I mean, Caden Helms we've all wanted him to be a great player, and he's played a lot more snaps. And that was a tough play, so it's not on him. That was a bad throw by Mateer, but it's just like, why is that play being called for him? Call that play, and I don't know if Ben Arbuckle's response would be, well, I mean, the idea is that LSU's not expecting Caden Helms to be the guy to be the target on that play. If that, maybe, I don't know, but also that was very well blocked up and a good play design, and if Jaron Kanik was in there, it probably so would have been open. All right, we've done negative stuff. Let's try to find some likes to go back to. How about the defense? Let's go over to the defense and second quarter. How about this? The very first snap of the second quarter, LSU had the football, and this is already after I believe Bauer Sharp, that trick play already happened where he caught the double pass. LSU was trying to run another trick play and a little running back pass, and Oklahoma did not bite at all. The secondary allowed the front seven just to do what it does and try to stop the run, and everybody sunk, and they were trying to do a little running back pass there. It was not open, and Owen Heineke went ahead and did his job and got a 3-yard TFL. And so that was great, and that was the drive where Oklahoma was able to hold LSU to a field goal after they had turned it over on downs with that fourth down and short that they didn't get to go. So that was a nice play by the Oklahoma secondary, not falling for the second trick play attempt by LSU. And really, LSU only had I think they attempted 3 trick plays in the game, and they were successful on only one of them. Also, how about this? And you talked about this, I believe, in the stadium. Also in the second quarter, later in the second quarter, Sammy Omasigo and Danny Okoye, they both sniff out a throwback pass and totally blows up the play, despite LSU's entire offensive line being out on the edge to block. Just 2 guys against 5, essentially, and they blew it up, and there was no gain. That was an awesome play by Sammy Omasigo and Danny Okoye.
And it happened because they knew exactly what was going on, essentially, right when it happened. And so they were able to work through all of the trash and be like, yeah, no, this guy's getting the ball. And so, yeah, that was an awesome play, because I thought throwback passes have this is, anecdotal, but I feel like throwback passes have an extraordinarily high rate of success in football whenever you call them in the right moments. And so that was nice to see. Well, we're talking about the defense. I guess I'd be remiss. I want to go back because we haven't mentioned it yet. LSU's very first drive of the game after Mateer, throws that pick on the first drive goes inside the 5-yard line. Peyton Bowen, who has has really come of age in the last 5-6 games. The second half of the season, he has turned into what we all expected him to be when he first came here out of high school. That was just an exceptionally athletic play that he made, picking that off. And I think, from our vantage point in the stadium, it was like, Van Buren just keeps that. He's going to score. Watching it back on TV, I don't know if he scores there. I think Bowen kind of had it. He was, Roddy White even said it on the broadcast. Bowen did a really good job of mirroring Van Buren there. And he was there. And so I think Van Buren would have picked up a yard or 2 if he would have kept it. But Bowen was on him. He was, I think he would have met if Van Buren would have committed to the run, which he never did. I think Bowen would have been there to meet him.
I think if he doesn't score, he gets to the 1 or 2 yard line. Bowen was backing up. Bowen, and I don't even think he was. It was a great play by Peyton Bowen, but also a really bad play by Van Buren. He was locked on to. Why wouldn't you want to lock on to Bauer Sharp? He's their go-to guy. So I think, hey, we got to get Bauer Sharp a touchdown against his old team. And yeah, that's a great play by Bowen. But I think Bowen was sinking, and he was giving up a lot of yards. And Van Buren can move, and there was a lot of room to the edge there. So I think maybe he doesn't score, but I think he would have gotten at least to the 1 or 2 yard line, because Bowen would have had to stop on his back pedal and then drive up and then make a one-on-one tackle, which is not always easy to begin with. Thankfully, Van Buren's young and really wanted to throw a touchdown pass instead of run for one there, and wanted to lock onto his guy. And Bowen sunk, and then made a really athletic, great play. And yeah, you're right. He's making excellent plays every single game. And this is what you want from your 5-star safety. And it's taking a little bit longer than you'd like. I mean, I know he played a lot last year and he had a good season, but he's really starting to look like one of those X factor. He's just seeing it. The game is clearly slowing down for him, and it's excellent. And when you face these other teams that can throw the ball a little bit better, and maybe he can be like, I mean, it doesn't even matter. He's still getting takeaways against LSU, who's awful on offense. So yeah, good call. Totally. I had that. I forgot to list that in my likes for the defense. I had taken some notes and then had it down way, it happened so early in the game that good on you for remembering to bring that play up, because that was great. And while we're at it, might as well, because we want to just fast forward to the end. I mean, and we can fill in. But just he also made a play at the end of the game too. Don't want to forget about that. Although I think that was more of like a team play on that 4th down stop. I mean, there was nothing. The entire Oklahoma defense had that play sniffed out. I mean, there was even if it would have been not knocked down, Eli Bowen and Kobe McKenzie were there to make a tackle on Bauer Sharp. You hope they get him down before the line to gain. But but Peyton Bowen gets the bat down.
And I wanted to go through. I was looking at the drive chart. OU, even if you don't count just the 1 play interception drive for LSU, OU's defense forced 7 3-and-outs in this game. If you tack on the interception drive, it was just 1 play. That's 8 drives where it was 3 plays or less and out for LSU. And LSU, bad offense. Maybe I think LSU probably the worst offense in the SEC this year, but that's what you're supposed to do against the worst offense in the SEC. And I think, I generally think that in terms of like game script and how it was going, if OU plays mistake-free football, if they don't turn it over on the opposite side of the ball, I think very good chance they shut LSU out. There was just no way that they were ever going to go the length of the field.
Good chance, sure. Well, hitting just a couple other rapid fire defensive likes. 3rd quarter. Want to give props to Robert Spears Jennings. He did a great job of keeping contained on a 2nd down and 12 when Van Buren was trying to do a quarterback run, and he kept it contained and ended up getting a TFL on Van Buren. And this was the drive after Mateer's 3rd interception, where he tried to do and that's the offensive dislike. Mateer's 3rd pick, just dreadful. I know what he was trying to do, trying to back shoulder Giovanni Gibson, but it was just. Well, he threw it to the front side of the play. He didn't really throw it to the back.
I think that was probably for as well as I thought Mateer played at times in this game. I think I think you could very rationally argue that was his worst throw of the entire season. I mean, it was dreadful. Bad decision, bad throw, bad sequence, bad moment.
There's been a lot of them. He's had a lot of really bad throws. You probably, unfortunately. Given that it was a clean picture for him and like what he was trying to do, and he didn't really get rushed. It was just okay. We're gonna do a back shoulder here. I thought
good. I thought this game was at least since September. This was the most that John Mateer has looked like the John Mateer that we watched at Washington State last year, where, hey, even like we even commented like, hey, yeah, it's you look at the numbers, the raw numbers. Mateer did a pretty good job at taking care of the ball last year at Washington State. You go back and watch a lot of instances where he is really putting the ball in danger and the other team just can't capitalize on it. But there was those plays sprinkled into moments of brilliance where he was hitting guys in tight windows and was clearly. And I thought this game, he looked a lot like what we watched last year, like where it's just like, yeah, there's 4 or 5 throws. There's just like, oh God, like you kind of hope that the defense just can't take advantage of it. But then he was able to make some plays as well. And I take the good with the bad with him. Just is what it is. You kind of wish that he would have shown a little bit more improvement as the season went along, but that didn't happen. And so now you're just kind of hoping that you can, and it is, I mean, first round of the playoffs, he's going to have moments like that too. He's going to put 5 or 6 balls into mortal danger. And you just kind of hope that Notre Dame or Ole Miss or Alabama, I think those are the 3 teams that they could play. BYU, maybe, if BYU wins the Big 12 championship game. You hope that they can't take advantage of it, and he can sprinkle in like some other, moments of brilliance. But yeah, all the people who want to criticize Mateer after this game for those 3 turnovers, I think it's totally fair. But I think also you have to acknowledge that he was hitting on some stuff down the field that he has not been able to do since September.
Yeah, let's piggyback off that with some offensive likes. And third quarter, we talked about Caden Helms, and he had that target, not a good throw from Mateer. Well, he had a nice little drag route across the field where Mateer hit him in stride for 16 yards. So that was a good throw on the run in the third quarter. Also in the third quarter, on 3rd and 14, I definitely liked when Mateer hit Giovanni Gibson on an explosive. And that was the play where LSU had the substitution infraction, so they had an extra guy. They were trying to get it off, and so it didn't matter. I think that was a good read by John and put the ball in a good spot for Giovanni Gibson. So that was a good 3rd and long conversion. And then we'll keep it going. And let's get to this play on also in the third quarter, late third quarter. We finally see Jade Knott come in. You mentioned him earlier in the show, and he comes into the game on I believe a 2nd down play after Torrey Blaylock had gained nothing on 1st down. And I'll be damned. Little wide receiver screen to Deion Burks, and it's just a great call at the perfect time. And it's blocked up perfectly. Jaron Canick comes out, gets the kick-out block on the wide receiver that was lined up across Deion Burks. Then you got Derek Simmons and Fubechi Woo coming out and held off the safety, and Deion Burks went ahead and just followed right behind him and went up the field for the long, 40, 45-yard touchdown. And just out of nowhere, just like a blink of an eye, kind of like the Satania touchdown last week, just like that, Oklahoma now has tied the game at 10. I mean, and that play happened right in front of us.
And now, yeah, right in front of it. And that's I didn't necessarily see this live while we were watching it, but on the TV broadcast, you can go back and you see it. It's basically, for people who have played Madden or NCAA football, it's like LSU basically ran in gauge 8. Like, they just sent the house. It was a massive, I think they sent 7 guys. They sent all 3 of their linebackers. And I don't think you could have called a better play against what LSU was going on. But I was like, why would you blitz against OU's? I don't think teams should blitz OU. That's just like they have a hard enough time like sitting back and going through their progressions anyway. Like, why would you give them some space to operate? Anyway, it ended up working out, and like we were joking. Deion Burks is first, and I'm sure he's had some other ones that we're just forgetting, but for all intents and purposes, Deion Burks' first explosive play is an Oklahoma Sooner. That's not a spring game.
Surely that can't be true. I think I know we've talked about it a lot, but surely there's been another one that's been at least 20 yards.
True, consequential explosive play. Because remember, he all of his touchdowns a season ago came in that opener against Temple. He didn't score any other touchdowns the rest of the year. His only touchdown of this season came on like the little jet sweep against Michigan on the very first drive of the game, and he hadn't scored since then. And so, yeah, like, does he have other like 20-yard receptions this season? Yes, he does. But like, when I think of like, that was like an explosive where it's just like, okay, he breaks away and like the defense can't catch him and he scores. You know what I mean? Like, that was like, in terms of win probability added, that is far and away probably his most valuable play as an Oklahoma Sooner up to this point, because he's just a guy, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. All right, more defensive likes. Defensive likes in the fourth quarter. First snap of the fourth quarter. I like this. It was a fortunate situation for OU that big old Trey'Dez Green dropped an easy would-be first down when he was crossing over, kind of coming from the slot and going across the formation. That would have been a first down in Oklahoma territory, but instead it led to an LSU punt, because that was the drive where Van Buren scrambled on 3rd down and long, couldn't get it. So a little bit of fortunate, a little bit of luck for OU as Trey'Dez Green. So I like that in the fourth quarter, him dropping a pass that would have given LSU a first down into OU territory.
And hey, bad offenses make mistakes all the time. So like and of course, you can't, you're going up against Notre Dame. You can't count on them making huge mistakes like that. But it's also, this is college football, And even good teams make mistakes like that all the time. And so you kind of have to just bake that into the cake. It's going to happen.
So more defensive likes, and this is going to be a like that leads into one of the few defensive dislikes. So also in the fourth quarter, coming out of a timeout, LSU decides to run their third trick play of the game, and that's when Grayson Halton just blows it up and almost gets a takeaway. He gets a hand on it, and it leads to a 17-yard loss back to the Oklahoma 39-yard line. And then LSU either a false start or a delay a game backed them up 5 more yards. And so that was obviously a like, but then it led to a dislike, obviously, because OU allowed LSU to gain 18 yards on a 3rd and 32 from the OU 44-yard line, which allowed LSU to kick that go-ahead field goal in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes to play. So I'll let you comment on the Grayson Halton play if you want, but also it led to a dislike where Oklahoma did give up that big play that allowed LSU to kick a field goal.
Yeah, on one end you got Halton almost single-handedly taking LSU out of scoring position. And what can be said about Grayson Halton at this time? He's just had an outstanding season. He's so good. He is and I'm sure, but like I haven't really seen many interior defensive linemen in the SEC better than him. I think he should be a first-team All-SEC guy. Him and David Stone probably should be. He has just been a big play and a guy who just sort of forces himself upon the opposition all season long. And so like in big moments, like I get sort of butterflies when I see him out there because I know that he's about to eat. And so one, that's awesome. And then on the 18-yarder that got them back into field goal range, that's one of those instances where it's just like I'm sure there's something that OU's defense could have done better on that play, but I think on that situation, that was just, LSU still has some talented players, even though their offense is clearly mismanaged and dysfunctional. And I think on that, even in the stadium watching, I was like, gosh, man, I think you gotta tip your cap on that one. I mean, Van Buren is mobile. He can get outside the pocket. And there was someone bearing down on him when he made that throw. And it was a perfect throw. I mean, that's a tough throw to make. So, and in that instance, right, you can think to yourself, gosh, man, LSU's offense stinks. And that was a huge play that they just made there. It's like, that's a winning play that they made. And LSU made like 3 winning plays in the entire game. And that was one of them. And luckily, it didn't end up hurting him that much, but I think you just tip your cap. It is what it is. It's not like the guy was not like the dude who Van Buren hit was like wide open or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean it was a nice play by them. They practiced too, as we like to say. It's just on that long, Oklahoma did not keep contained. You got to keep him in the pocket there, and the fact that it was Cortland Guillory trailing, and it was almost they weren't playing man, so it just. It would have been nice if there was a guy playing zone defense that receiver's running into the zone. He could have been there to knock it away or something like that. But that's nitpicking at this point. But hey, how about another defensive like? Because after that field goal, Oklahoma's offense, there's a dislike. They went 3 and out. But OU's defense went ahead and forced a 3 and out right after that. So OU's trailing. LSU's got the ball, and Oklahoma's defense said, all right, well, yeah, you guys didn't do anything more. Forces a 3 and out, and that led to obviously probably the last offensive like of the game. And that was and you know what, since you've been the biggest champion of Oklahoma's tight end, I'll let you take this one on that final OU offensive drive.
Yeah, how about this? I'll even say it in terms of the stakes, like what was on the line going into this drive and, just how it all played out. I think it's pound for pound. This was the best drive of OU's season at this point in time. 3 plays, 84 yards, and on the 3 plays, they went to their 2 best offensive players, Jaron Kanak and Isaiah Satania. It was Kanak, the first 2 plays of the drive, I think it was a 9-yarder, and then like a 17-yarder after that, where we had a really good look, especially at the 17-yarder, whereas as soon as Kanak, as soon as the ball touched his hands, immediately, foot in the ground, and he got upfield. And it's just like, you can see his athleticism. He's so sudden when he has the ball in his hand, and he's big. He's hard to tackle. And very, very next play is the Satania, which was awesome. Being in the stadium for that was awesome. I mean, it was because from where we could see Satania break open, and it felt like the ball was in the air for 10 seconds. Like it was just, and we're just watching it, and in my head, I'm like, he's going to freaking drop this. It's like the ball was in the air that long where I even had the thought he's going to freaking drop this. And as soon as he catches it, you could feel like the eruption, and it was sweet. There was people in front of me that I don't even know. I was mobbing them and touching inappropriately and everything, and it was great. We all had a good time. And so, but I do not think it's not a coincidence at all that great drive starts with them trying to feed Jaren Kanak. Please, man, going to the playoffs, he needs 10 targets a game in the playoff. He just needs it. As Jaren Kanak goes, the offense goes. And that's how it was back in September when the offense looked much more functional than it has the last 2 months. That's how it went in the fourth quarter of this game when they absolutely had to have it. They went to their two best offensive players. This offense needs to be all about, if you can get Xavier Robinson healthy in the next 3 weeks, this entire offense needs to be about Xavier Robinson, Isaiah Satania, Jaren Kanak. It's a wasted drive if those guys are not touching it at least once every single drive, period.
Yeah, and thank you to ESPN for ABC for showing the all 22 of that play, because I was like everybody else was like thinking, how the heck did he get so wide open? And I still don't even know. My best guess is that it looked like LSU, the call was to have two deep safeties, cover two, and one of the deep safeties did not get the call. And the one half of the field, deep half, was wide open, and that's worst case scenario. And thankfully, John Mateer saw Isaiah Satania down the field, and you're right. Credit to Isaiah Satania for not dropping that, because as somebody who at a much, much, much lower level and not playing offense, dropped a easy lollipop interception, which is very embarrassing. It's very doable. It's very doable. So I know what it feels like to drop an easy ball, and that was never in doubt for Isaiah Satania. He caught it easily and then trotted into the end zone for a touchdown, changing the game and leading to our final defensive likes, that final drive. We talked about Peyton Bowen's final play, but there are some other good things too on that final OU defensive drive.
And also
like
credit
to
to
something else.
As a credit on that touchdown, credit to ESPN for zooming out, pulling out to show the crowd as he's crossing the goal line, and everybody sort of like jumping at like the wave of people going, which is always fun. And cool moment. I'm glad I was there. That was really fun.
Let's clean up a couple of things, because I realize I have some miscellaneous likes and dislikes. And typically that's special team stuff. So we already mentioned Tate Sandell. He kicked a field goal. That's always a like. But before Deion Burks' touchdown, Isaiah Satania had a really big punt return, a 35-yard punt return that set that drive up. So that was a huge play in the game. And special teams, man, it's nice to see Oklahoma doing things on special teams after them being incredibly dormant for a long time. In the years of Bob Stoops, honestly, and then obviously with Lincoln Riley, they weren't doing anything on special teams. So that Isaiah Satania punt return was pretty great. And I know we're sounding like a broken record, but that happened right in front of us as well. We had great seats. We had awesome seats. Any comments on that? No? Okay.
I mean, no, it's a great play. I mean, we said it all year. He's a weapon in the punt return game. If he has a little bit of space, a lot of the times he's going to make something of it. You just kind of hope that he hangs on to the ball.
A couple other things, before we'll go in chronological order, because another miscellaneous dislike I have. How about after the Satania touchdown, OU giving up a long kickoff return and setting LSU up with good field position? I did not like that at all. That wasn't great, and that was a situation where you watch it back. Elijah Thomas, he's the contain guy, and he gets sucked in. He gets engaged with the blocker. Dude, you're the contain guy. You keep contain. You funnel everything into your team, your other tacklers that are going to be there to help you out. Now, if the guy keeps going wide, you're the contain guy. Then you can tackle him. And what the problem was, he got sucked in too far. He got engaged. Peyton Bowen tried to come over to help, but Peyton Bowen ended up tripping over the Elijah Thomas and the guy who was engaged in. And then once the contain guy is taken out of the play, the whole sideline's wide open. It's not hard. It's not hard. You can't make that mistake. And Tate Sandell got a little bit of piece of the guy. that OU had him. I mean, would have gotten him out anyways, but still,
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think if Sandell doesn't get a piece of him, no, I think he's gone if Sandell doesn't get him.
No, you had like 2 or 3 guys that had the angle on that. I mean, he would have probably gotten maybe 5 or 10 more yards, but he wouldn't have been gone.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what I saw. I think he would have scored if Sandell didn't get him. But
all right, well,
there you go.
You guys all be the judge.
Tate Sandell being awesome again. Athlete, man, just an athlete.
So I didn't like that. Let's see. We talked about the final play of the game. Obviously, that was a big time like for the defense. I did want to. There was one other play on that final drive for LSU that I wanted to highlight, and we already talked about Grayson Halton, but we're going to talk about him again. And this is before. This was the final sequences before the final 4th down play. On the last snap before the 2-minute timeout, Grayson Halton got immediate penetration on 2nd down and 6, and totally sped up the play. It sped up Van Buren. It forces him to get rid of the ball before he wanted to, and it was only a 1-yard gain. The receiver caught it kind of falling down, and so that made it. Grayson Halton sped that play up, led to a 3rd down and 5, and then of course Oklahoma got LSU to 4th down and 2, and then got off the field and got the W. So just wanted to give one more positive shout out to Grayson Halton, who had a really, really nice game.
Also, props to LSU's dysfunctional, terrible offense on maybe the most important snap of the game. They go and get under center in the I formation, which is something that they don't do. Thank you for doing that in the highest leverage moment of the entire game.
I wonder if they wish that they had a replay. They could have gone back to the play they scored a touchdown on, which was just a little like running back screen to the flats. And I mean, it was a short yardage play that they only needed a few yards, but they only needed 2 yards for the 1st down. I wonder if they had a do-over, they'd call that play instead. Oh, well, who cares? All right, here's what we're going to do, guys. You didn't have a game next week. We're kind of wait and see. You all have 3-word reviews on the West of Everest Facebook page and also on Twitter. We're going to save those for the midweek show. And obviously, the midweek show will know what the newest playoff rankings are. I don't anticipate them changing a whole lot after what we saw this weekend. There was a whole lot of chalk. And would you also agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, the most interesting thing is going to see where how far Texas A&M falls. But I think we can pretty safely assume that Georgia will move up to number 3 behind Ohio State and Indiana. Not sure where Texas A&M will go, but I think that's going to be. But I anticipate OU will stay at number 8 because nothing else happened. And I know Notre Dame looked really good smoking Stanford, but Stanford is maybe the worst P4 team in the country. So I don't really think they should get much credit for that. It's gonna be interesting to see for sure. It's at this point in time, I've been like racking my head trying to think of scenarios in which OU is like left out of this thing, and I don't think I have come. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I think
they're in. It's just all. It's all about whether or not they're going to go on the road or if they're going to host a game. And I think if Alabama wins the SEC championship game, they're going on the road. What that would look like, I'm not sure, but we'll see. I think if they did, they'd probably go to Oxford. They'd probably play Ole Miss.
Well, a couple of questions. So one, I think A&M and Georgia for this newest one, they'll still flip spots. I think A&M will go to 4, Georgia will go to 3. I think if Texas Tech ends up winning the Big 12, I think they'll probably bump Tech over A&M because they have the conference title game, the extra win. But whatever, that's down the line. The questions are, because it looks like you mentioned earlier, it looks like all the reports are saying that Lane's going to go to LSU, and it sounds like Lane's trying to figure out if he can still coach. And will the committee really actually dock Ole Miss if Lane is not allowed to coach? I don't know. I haven't really thought much about that. So Ole Miss could be in flux. And then the question, aside from will OU host or will they go on the road, but also will OU have a rematch in the first round? That's another question mark. And because, there's that. And then we could learn a lot from this next grouping because these two teams are done playing. Are they going to continue to keep Notre Dame in front of Miami? Now that they've both played 12 games, the regular season's over, what are they going to just keep it there? And if so, it's like, wow. they're really just not going to take into account head-to-head. And if that's the case, like finally, that's pretty problematic if you ask
That's
me.
what they did. That's what they did in the very first year of the playoff ever. They had TCU ahead of Baylor the entire time. And then on the very last one before they had to announce the bracket, they bumped Baylor ahead of TCU because of the head-to-head result. If you remember that game, it was like 66-59 or something like that. So we'll see. And if in that case, like let's say Miami does go up to number 9 and they bump Notre Dame, and that's Miami coming to Norman, that would be a significantly better matchup for Oklahoma, like significantly. So I think we'll see what happens. I tend to think that they're going to keep Notre Dame up there.
Guess we'll find out. All right, I'm having a difficult time. You're breaking up here and there, so I think we're kind of losing the connection. So I think it's a good time for us to close this episode out. So again, we'll read your 3-word reviews on the midweek show. Probably I kind of previewed them. There's a lot of negativity towards John Mateer in the offense, and so I'm curious. Maybe a lot of you guys that listen to the show, if you go back and rewatch the game, maybe you'll have different thoughts. I don't think Mateer was like awesome or anything. I don't think he was as bad as probably a lot of people think he was, and I do think there was a lot of signs of positivity of him throwing the ball down the field. But still, the offense is still not good. It's still not a very good offense. But also, they're playing really good defenses, so you got to factor that in, and the elements were where it was. And finally, and I'll throw it over to Grant for one last note. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. This was supposed to be a 7-5, 8-4 team based on the preseason win total, and OU's 10-2, and barring something crazy happening, they're in the playoff. And to me, everything here on out is gravy, and it's just enjoy it. Enjoy it, even though the offense is not very good. Oklahoma's overachieved this season, and they still have a chance to do even more and still surprise a lot of people. So that's really cool, and that's awesome to know that we're going to be watching most likely at least one more really important Oklahoma football game in the month of December. Grant, any final thoughts?
I'm just happy that they're back at the dance where they should be. And so it's been a while. I mean, OU has not been in the college football playoff since 2019. So it's time. I'm glad that they're back.
All right, guys, we'll be back midweek to talk about the latest college football playoff rankings and everything else that's happening in the world of college football. Until then, for Grant, I am Lee. This is West of Everest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the show. And if you want to help us spread the word, please leave us a 5-star review. And also, tell all of your friends who are OU fans about West of Everest. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud.